In every corner of the world, people measure time in the same way, but not everyone experiences the same length of life. Most of us expect perhaps 70 or 80 years, and anything beyond that feels like a gift, a bonus granted by nature. Yet, scattered across our planet, there are regions where reaching 100 years old is not rare, but rather part of the rhythm of life. These places are called the blue zones, and they invite us into a mystery that is both scientific and deeply human. To enter their world is to enter a story where longevity is not celebrated with fireworks, but lived quietly, in the warm glow of everyday existence. It is this quiet miracle we are about to explore together. As the night deepens and stillness surrounds you, imagine the soft landscapes of distant islands and secluded valleys where the air feels cleaner and time seems to slow. Picture vibrant hillsides dotted with fields, gardens, and small stone houses. You can almost hear the sounds of life-gentle conversations, laughter from children, the shuffle of old feet still steady on ancient paths. In these places, life is not something to be rushed but something to be savored, like a meal prepared with care and shared with love. The opening of our journey asks a simple yet profound question: why do some people seem to live so much longer than others, and what secrets are hidden in their way of life? The mystery of exceptional longevity has fascinated philosophers, doctors, scientists, and dreamers for centuries. In classical times, poets spoke of mythical lands where people never grew old, where the cycle of life seemed suspended in a golden balance. Today, we know that such myths are not entirely without echoes in reality. The blue zones represent the closest we have come to discovering real-world versions of those imagined realms. What makes them so fascinating is not only the numbers, the birthdays that stretch past 90, 100, even beyond, but the quality of those years. The elderly here do not fade away into frailty as quickly. Many of them remain active, purposeful, and joyful deep into old age, living lives that are rich not only in years but also in meaning. Now, imagine yourself in Okinawa, Japan. The evening sun dips low over the sea, painting the sky with hues of orange and violet. An elderly woman with silver hair tied neatly behind her head tends to her small vegetable garden. She bends gracefully, harvesting sweet potatoes, the same way she has done for decades, her hands weathered yet steady. This woman is past 90, but her back remains straight, her smile wide, her spirit unbroken. She, like many of her neighbors, carries within her an unspoken assurance that life is still unfolding with joy and continuity. As night falls, she will gather with friends, share food in moderation, and laugh as if no weight of years has settled upon her shoulders. In this simple scene, we begin to glimpse the essence of longevity. Across the world in Sardinia, Italy, another story unfolds. A shepherd in his late 90s still tends to his flock in the rugged hills. His steps, though slower than in youth, are not weak. He climbs with determination, guided by decades of habit and devotion to the same land his ancestors walked. At night, he returns home where his family waits, a family spanning generations, all connected under one roof. In his presence, children not only learn about life but witness a living testament to endurance, discipline, and love. There is no need for textbooks or lessons. The presence of a centenarian patriarch in the household itself becomes a story, a guiding light passed naturally to the next generation. When we look at such faces, wrinkled yet serene, we might wonder, what is their secret? Is it hidden in their genes, a lucky inheritance from ancestors who also lived long lives? Or is it written into their daily routines, their diets, their ways of moving, their habits of mind and heart. The truth is not always easy to capture, but the search itself reveals layers of beauty. As you listen and let your mind settle, there is comfort in knowing that longevity is not a cold scientific number but a lived experience of balance, a dance between body, spirit, and environment. This dance whispers to us through the patterns of lifestyle, community, and tradition. Think of the rhythm of their days. Rising with the sun, working with their hands, enjoying meals made from the land, and sharing stories beneath the stars. Life moves in circles, not lines. It is a life of enough, rarely of excess, and in that moderation lies strength. They eat simple, unprocessed foods, much of it grown nearby: beans, grains, vegetables nurtured by the soil, and fruits warmed by the sun. Meat appears only occasionally, more as a celebration than a daily staple. Meals are savored slowly, and laughter often accompanies every bite. Even without the language of science, these traditions shape a body that resists disease and embraces longevity with grace. Purpose is perhaps the quiet heartbeat of their existence. To wake each morning with a reason to rise, whether it is tending a garden, caring for grandchildren, or continuing a craft handed down through generations. This sense of meaning, small as it may appear, can fuel a life for decades. It is not the pursuit of wealth or fame but the humble satisfaction of knowing that today has a role for you. In contrast to the modern rush where stress and ambition often rule, here life turns gently, like the pages of a well-worn book. Centenarians hold on to their reason for living, and in that steady flame they find the resilience to outlast the years. Community is another thread that ties their stories together. In Nicoya, Costa Rica, the bonds between neighbors remain close. An elderly man of 100 continues to visit friends in the village, to greet them with warmth, to share coffee in the morning air. Loneliness, which afflicts so many in urbanized societies, seldom gains a foothold in these places. Extended families, caring neighbors, and tight-knit villages offer an invisible but powerful medicine: connection. To be held within a web of relationships is to feel less of life's burdens alone, and when burdens are lighter, the heart beats longer and the spirit stays bright. And then there is the gentle art of stress release, a discipline almost forgotten in hurried cities but still alive in these regions. In Ikaria, Greece, people pause in the afternoon for rest. They nap, they chat, they allow the body to recover from the sun's heat. In Loma Linda, faith communities find time to pray, reflect, and renew. Such rituals may seem simple, but over decades they carve a path for longevity, protecting hearts and minds from the wear and tear of unrelieved tension. When a culture lives in harmony with its natural rhythms, the body thrives in the same way trees thrive when they are watered, rooted, and given gentle sun. As you listen, imagine your own breath slowing, your body relaxing into this story. Longevity is not an abrupt achievement but a lifelong harmony. The world's blue zones show us that living to 100 is neither impossible nor unnatural. Rather, it is the result of consistency, of choices repeated across years, of an environment that nurtures rather than depletes. These regions remind us that health is not only in hospitals or medicines, but woven into the fabric of daily life: the walk to a neighbor's home, the tending of a garden, the breaking of bread, the laughter shared under a starry sky. Scientists studying these places confirm that genes alone cannot explain their records of long life. While genetics play a role, they are like a blueprint, limited without the building blocks of lifestyle. The environment, the habits, the connections, the diets, these factors shape the actual structure of a life. To carry good genes without a supportive lifestyle is like owning seeds but never planting them in soil. The blue zones show us the opposite, people whose lives, though simple, have nurtured those seeds with care until they bloom into lifespans extraordinary in length and vitality. In these opening moments of our journey, allow the thought to rest gently within you. Somewhere on this planet, right now, an elderly woman is smiling softly as she places tea on the table. An elderly man is walking slowly but steadily along a familiar path. Children are listening to stories from grandparents who surpass 100 years. They are not rushing, they are not resisting, they are simply living, and in their peace lies a timeless secret. As you drift deeper into this narrative, let your imagination linger on those images of calm, of continuity, of subtle strength, for they will guide you into the heart of the mystery we seek to uncover. We stand at the threshold of discovery, where myth meets science, where tradition meets research, and where the promise of a long, fulfilling life begins to take shape. The night embraces us softly, and with it the voices of the blue zones call gently from across oceans and mountains. Their message is not loud but profound. It reminds us of the possibility of a life not measured by speed or by consumption, but by depth, connection, and resilience. And so, with slow breath and an open mind, we step into their world, ready to learn why some people live to 100 and beyond. As night deepens over the story we began, the journey continues gently, carrying us deeper into the landscapes of longevity where silence is filled with quiet wisdom. The mysteries of the blue zones do not unfold quickly, nor do they demand urgency. Instead, they reveal themselves like gradual sunrises, shedding light gently, stretching shadows slowly, touching every detail of life with patience. We already sensed in the opening their spirit, harmony with nature, balance in habits, and purpose that does not fade like smoke, but endures like stone shaped by centuries. Now, we walk further into this world, moving closer to the heart of how some people live to 100 years and beyond. The story of longevity does not live only in numbers but in the texture of days. Imagine stepping quietly onto the earth of these faraway regions. The soil is rich, familiar to the hands that have tilled it for generations. Each grain of earth holds memories of seeds, rains, footsteps, and time itself. In Okinawa, the gardens seem endless, filled with vegetables of brilliant colors, each nurtured in a climate that breathes life gently. The elders lean down to pick leafy greens, their fingers steady, their posture still upright despite the years behind them. In Sardinia, sheep graze on the hillside, their bells echoing softly as shepherds guide them along paths that wind like ribbons through hidden valleys. On the Nicoya Peninsula, the ocean shimmers with a calm steadiness, and the people there rise with the sun, their bodies nurtured by corn tortillas, beans, and fresh fruits that have been their companions throughout life. Across these places, there is a rhythm, one that seems almost musical, the rhythm of small acts repeated faithfully, the rhythm of bodies attuned to land and sky. Longevity is not a single chord struck once, but a symphony that builds slowly, each note layered with care. When elders in Ikaria gather in small homes to sip herbal tea, laughter flows in gentle waves. They speak of what seems ordinary daily events, family concerns, memories from years long past. Yet nothing in their conversation is rushed. Their language, like their lives, breathes slowly, giving space for pauses, for thought, for warmth. Stress in these cultures does not disappear, for hardships are part of every human life, but the way people carry them is different. Instead of holding tension tightly, they let it pass through like wind through open windows. Their bodies, trained by rituals of rest and modesty, learn how to release and renew, so each day does not weigh too heavily upon the next. It is in this gentle cycle of effort and release that resilience is formed. Scientists who visit these regions come with measuring instruments, notebooks, and questions. They count blood pressure, record diets, analyze the genetics of families with centenarian members. Yet, even when the data is gathered carefully, an unspoken truth emerges: the greatest parts of the story are not numbers at all. They are felt through presence, through observation, through the simplicity of lives led without obsession for control. In blue zones, health is not a goal aggressively pursued but a natural outcome of balanced living. People here do not chase youth forever; instead, they embrace age as a respected companion. Wrinkles are not hidden, but worn with dignity, as maps of memory carved upon the skin. The role of food in this story is irresistible. In every blue zone, meals are sacred, not because they are rare, but because they are shared. The elders eat not only to sustain bodies but to nourish bonds. In Okinawa, bowls of miso soup, sweet potatoes, tofu, and green vegetables create a table that is humble yet striking in its variety. These foods carry nutrients that strengthen, but more importantly, they carry traditions that align body and culture. In Sardinia, bread is still baked by hand, olive oil glistens in glass bottles, and wine is sipped gently in moderation, its deep flavors cherished more for company than for indulgence. In Costa Rica, plates often carry beans rich with life-giving protein, corn tortillas made in the traditional style, and tropical fruits bursting with vibrant sweetness. Food becomes more than matter; it becomes memory, connection, identity. And at every table, conversation lingers longer than the last bite, binding hearts in a net of companionship that is just as nourishing as the meal itself. Movement in the blue zones flows naturally, almost invisibly within daily life. Few of the elders could speak of gyms or exercise routines, yet their bodies move with quiet strength. Walking is woven into necessity. Hills are climbed not for challenge but for livelihood. Gardens require tending, paths require crossing, animals need guiding, and grandchildren need to be carried and held. This kind of movement is not mechanical but organic, arising as daily tasks are performed, sustained by habit, softened by repetition. The muscles do not strain under artificial loads but remain flexible and enduring, like ropes made strong through years of use. Walking through villages, you might see groups of elders gathered on porches, yet few sit entirely still. Hands knit, chop, peel, craft. Their lives are sculpted through small but steady exertions, maintaining vitality until late into life. Purpose lies beneath these actions, a quiet current running through every blue zone. The word is simple, but the experience is profound. To wake each morning with reason, whether it is tending animals, preparing food, offering prayer, or guiding the young, this sense of meaning becomes the hidden force that sustains longevity. In modern cities, many lives grow burdened by questions of purpose, weighed down by uncertainties or disconnected from deeper meaning. In contrast, in the blue zones, identities are tied naturally to community, family, land, or faith. An elder rises not asking, "What shall I do today?" but knowing already through duty and commitment. This clarity shapes not only routine but also resilience. The spirit grows strong when it believes it still belongs, when it still matters, when it still shines a light for others. Imagine sitting by an old fireplace in a Sardinian home, where an elder tells stories of ancestors long gone. Children gather close, absorbing history through tales rather than books. Each story cements identity, each gentle word passes down wisdom, and the storyteller feels purpose confirmed through the attention of younger eyes. This is the cycle of meaning, to pass on and to receive, to be part of something larger than oneself. It is a quiet medicine that nourishes the oldest hearts and keeps their rhythm steady through the passing years. In places like Loma Linda in California, where faith defines daily life, purpose is also tied to belief in higher meaning. Elders there rise with prayer, prepare meals with mindfulness, and care for one another with devotion rooted in spiritual practice. This connection between purpose and community acts like an invisible shelter against despair. It softens hardship, builds resilience against suffering, and reinforces the conviction that life is worth each passing day. Thus, the spirit remains engaged, awake, and in harmony with the body's slower pace. Purpose is not merely psychological but deeply physiological, guiding hormones, reducing stress, strengthening immunity, and aligning the body with calm endurance. Another dimension of longevity lies in rest, in the lessons of recovery learned by cultures that still respect natural rhythm. In Ikaria, the afternoon nap is not a luxury but a tradition. Adults pause, sleep lightly, allowing both body and mind to gather strength for the second half of the day. This habit, repeated across decades, reduces strain on the heart, lowers stress hormones, and refreshes memory and clarity. Sleep, often undervalued in busy societies, becomes protection, renewal, and silent healer. In Okinawa, evenings may wind down with friends gathered in small circles, conversations stretching into twilight, ending in deep restorative slumber. In Sardinia, elders rest not because they are exhausted but because they honor balance, knowing that enduring days require respect for night. These lessons remind us that perhaps longevity is not found in constant motion, but in balance, a rhythm of exertion and rest, activity and renewal, sound and silence. And all across these lands, connection is perhaps the invisible thread most powerful of all. To belong is to survive, and to be loved is to thrive. Families gather together, generations sharing the same homes, the same laughter, the same sorrows. In Nicoya, even the most elderly are woven tightly into family life. They wake knowing they are not alone, and as the day ends, they fall asleep knowing the same. Isolation, so often deadly in modern life, rarely touches them. To be part of a group is to feel one's worth reinforced daily. Laughter shared, prayers whispered together, meals enjoyed in company. Each interaction reduces loneliness, lowers stress, strengthens mental health, and reminds the body that it is cherished. Science confirms what intuition has always known: community is medicine, and love is longevity. When we step back and reflect, the lessons from these blue zones come into clearer view. Genes provide potential, but environment activates it. Food, movement, rest, purpose, and connection form a tapestry that makes long life not a miracle but an outcome. The miracle perhaps lies not in the reaching of 100, but in doing so with joy, mobility, clarity of mind, and the warmth of bonds unbroken. Life here does not lengthen because it is forced, it lengthens because it flows. Like rivers carved by time, like mountains standing patient against centuries of storms, human lives shaped by moderation and belonging take on lasting strength. As you listen now, consider your own breath, slow and calm. Let the imagery of these landscapes settle into your thoughts. Picture the hills of Sardinia, the gardens of Okinawa, the beaches of Nicoya, the valleys of Icaria, and the neighborhoods of Loma Linda. Imagine the elders walking among you, greeting you with kindness, offering you food from their tables, inviting you into their stories. Their secret is not hidden in laboratories or locked in genetic codes difficult to decipher. Their secret is before your eyes. It is in how they live, how they eat, how they move, how they love, and how they let themselves belong. The story continues quietly, flowing onward like a lullaby. The night bends around it softly, and as the words sink deeper into your hearing, the rhythm guides you tenderly toward rest, much like the elders who end their days with peace. They have walked so long, they have seen so much, and still they smile, gently urging us to learn what they have always known, that a long life is less about adding years, and more about filling each year with harmony. Let the thought stay with you as you drift, stretched across the horizon of imagination. Somewhere, in the quiet corners of this world, lives are unfolding with simplicity, with gratitude, with balance, carrying people gently into a century of days, each one like a thread in the vast fabric of time. Out there, the secrets of the blue zones remain alive, breathing softly, waiting for us not only to understand them, but perhaps, to live them. The story drifts forward like a slow tide coming back to the shore, expanding with every detail, carrying us deeper into the fabric of what makes life long and life meaningful. Already we have walked through gardens, across hills, and into small village homes where centenarians live simply and vibrantly. Yet, there is still more to feel, more to sense, more to understand about this mysterious resonance between environment, habit, spirit, and age. To follow the thread, we move closer, staying with their daily flow, finding ourselves in the quiet corners where truths become clear not in declarations, but in the gentle whisper of ordinary moments. As dusk falls over Okinawa, the voices of elders rise in conversation as neighbors gather in small groups called moe, circles of friendship that last a lifetime. These groups do not form casually, they are bonds that begin early and endure through decades of support, loyalty, and care. Within these circles, people find comfort against uncertainty, financial help when needed, celebration during times of joy, and solace when grief arrives. The moe is not written into law, not governed by formal obligation, yet it persists as strong as any institution. Loneliness has little space to grow in such soil. Instead, belonging nourishes the human heart like rain nourishes soil. The elders who sit together underneath hanging lanterns, sipping tea and exchanging laughter, do not think of their gathering as medicine, but that is what it is, a daily dose of connection, carrying them through the years with strength that science cannot always measure. In Sardinia, as night spreads over the hills, families sit around the table long after the meal has been finished. Candles flicker against stone walls, shadows play across the faces of fathers, mothers, children, and grandparents alike. The conversations flow in continuity, weaving together memories and stories. The old speak of the land, its hardships, its cycles, its gifts. Younger generations listen, not restlessly, but attentively, leaning on every word because it reminds them of who they are and where they belong. The bond of family in these spaces is more than affection. It is an anchor, steadying the mind and protecting the heart from the emptiness of solitude. Here, even when years grow heavy on the body, a person finds themselves lifted by the presence of others. To belong is to endure. To be treasured is to thrive. In these moments, longevity ceases to be a puzzle and begins to be a natural consequence of solidarity. Picture the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, where light fades slowly over tropical skies streaked with soft orange and pink. The air is calm, humid, full of scents carried from earth and sea. In the villages, life is paced easily, without frantic rush. On porches, centenarians sit watching children chase each other through the grass, dogs barking joyfully, birds returning to roost in the trees. The elders smile, not intervening often, but radiating a presence that speaks of stability. Their diet, rich with beans, corn, tropical fruits, nourishes not only their bodies but also the traditions of their people. Every tortilla pressed by hand, every cup of coffee shared in the early light, every pot of beans placed on the fire represents both sustenance and continuity. Decades pass, yet the cycle of meals, work, rest, and connection remains largely unchanged. And within this continuity, life stretches naturally far beyond what many people elsewhere imagine possible. In Greece, on the island of Ikaria, late evenings are often filled with music that flows from homes and squares. Instruments play, voices sing softly, feet dance with slow but enduring steps. The elders move among the dancers, not as guests, but as participants, their bodies swaying gently, marking rhythms carried across generations. They do not sit silently on the sidelines of life, waiting for moments to pass. They join, they laugh, they listen, they celebrate. Even in advanced age, they remain part of the flow, not excluded by walls of age but welcomed by the openness of their culture. To see a 90-year-old dancing with the younger, side by side, is to witness a truth hidden too often in societies where the old are placed apart from the young. Here there is no separation, only inclusion, and in inclusion, health is nurtured, and the years unfold like a gift. These scenes, these sounds, these shared rituals of daily living may seem small. But smallness is deceptive. Over decades, the tiny choices, the gentle habits, the consistent rhythms press their mark upon the body like flowing water-shaped stone. Science affirms what tradition demonstrates: inflammation within the body lowers when stress reduces, immunity strengthens when diets are balanced and natural, hearts endure when relationships provide stability, and minds remain clear when purpose burns softly within each day. No experiment could fully capture the texture of these combined factors, yet within the lives of the oldest among us, the result becomes evident. They do not reach 100 by resisting time, but by traveling with it, walking beside it, not against it. The modern world rarely functions this way. Machines hasten life, conveniences replace effort, busyness fills days with tension and exhaustion. The body, unprepared for such constant strain, suffers quietly. In contrast, the blue zones slow life just enough for health to keep pace with years. Their daily rituals, deeply ordinary though they may appear, align perfectly with what science recommends, yet without deliberate planning. None of these centenarians built their days upon dietary charts or fitness schedules. Their knowledge comes from generations of embodied wisdom: eat simply, move naturally, stay connected, believe in something beyond self, and rest when tired. The harmony of these elements becomes the key, subtle but powerful, to endurance beyond a century. It is not only the body that benefits from such harmony, but also the mind. Consider the role of memory among the very old in these communities. Memory is not solely the recall of facts but the emotional thread connecting one's past to the present. In families where elders are valued, memory becomes shared treasury rather than private burden. An old man in Sardinia remembers the songs of his father and passes them to his grandchildren. A woman in Ikaria teaches her granddaughter how to prepare herbal tea with leaves grown in their hills. In Okinawa, proverbs and mottos shape the worldview of the young, drawn like whispers from elders who embody their meaning. In this way, memory does not fade into silence but reinforces identity across generations. For elders, this sharing reaffirms their sense of purpose, while younger generations receive it as guidance. Both sides gain strength. Purpose for the older, continuity for the younger. And through this cycle, the culture itself protects longevity. Even faith carries its weight in these regions. Not every blue zone practices religion in the same way, but nearly all of them carry habits tied to belief, reflection, and time for the spirit. In Loma Linda, the Seventh-day Adventist community builds life around rhythm, health, and worship. Meals are plant-based, habits of rest and community gatherings are regular, and belief in the sanctity of the body forms the basis of practice. Here, longevity is intertwined with discipline inspired by faith. In Sardinia or Ikaria, the Orthodox traditions shape rituals of fasting, prayer, and gathering. These fasts, though meant as spiritual devotion, provide intervals of dietary moderation recognized by scientists to aid metabolism and strengthen the body against disease. Once again, culture and biology intersect seamlessly, without intention of science but with outcomes science applauds. What the elders live is wisdom hidden in plain sight. Tending the spirit is as necessary to healing as tending the body. Together, both expand the possibility of years. Imagine standing quietly at night in one of these villages. Silence hums around you, yet it is not empty. It is filled with the distant sound of ocean waves on rocks, dogs barking faintly in the distance, the low hum of gentle conversation behind wooden doors, the fragrance of herbs carried on night winds. An elder is asleep inside a small home, the window left slightly open for the breeze. Their sleep is not restless but deep, carried by the knowledge that morning will bring rhythm again, breakfast, family, labor, laughter, conversation. Each day leads naturally into the next, and thus decades pass not as a struggle, but as a continuous song of belonging. This is how lives lengthen, not by adding years in resistance, but by allowing each year to merge seamlessly into the fabric of time itself. The question for us, far from these villages, is whether such lives can be mirrored beyond their secluded valleys and islands. Can longevity be transferred, or is it forever bound to the soil where it thrives? Science suggests the latter is not true. While genes provide a foundation, most of the secrets are behaviors, environments, and connections that can be built by anyone, anywhere. To live slowly, to choose fresh and natural food, to rest daily, to form deep ties, to seek purpose, to respect balance between exertion and recovery, these require no particular geography, only intention. Yet the struggle lies in modern culture, which urges faster living, excessive consumption, mechanical separation from communities, and stress without relief. To learn from the blue zones is to resist that pull gently, to choose instead the path of the simple, the mindful, the connected. And in such choices, one might discover not only longer years, but richer ones. As you sink deeper into these thoughts, let your breathing soften, matching the calm rhythm of those distant elders rising with dawn, eating slowly, laughing gently, working moderately, resting deeply. Imagine their faces calm, their bodies strong though aged, their minds clear, their hearts unweighted. Picture them sitting under stars, looking at night sky with quiet contentment, a glass of wine, a cup of tea, a prayer whispered softly, silence resting comfortably upon their world. Now let this image fold over you like a blanket, like a song sung with no end, like a memory not yours yet offered to you as gift. The blue zones remain places of wonder because they remind us of human potential, the deep harmony waiting beneath layers of noise and pressure. They remind us that longevity is not about defying death but about welcoming life, year after year, with grace and balance. They remind us that 100 years is not a dream too far, but a possibility already being lived by countless quiet souls across the world. And they invite us, where we are, to listen not only to their advice but to their example. Perhaps we cannot all live in those valleys or on those islands, but we can carry pieces of their wisdom into our own days. Every fresh fruit eaten, every walk taken beneath trees, every conversation shared slowly, every purpose embraced with devotion brings us closer to the same current that carries them forward into extraordinary length of life. Now, as the narrative unfolds further, let your mind rest in this gentle flow. Each word drifts like water, carrying you along, not demanding, not insisting, only guiding. Allow yourself to linger in this long rhythm, as centuries of human lives stretch out before you, reminding you that you are part of a continuity beyond measure. Just as the elders sleep peacefully after days of balance, so too may you rest now, carried within the current of their story, safely, quietly, deeply, into your own enduring night. The night lengthens as our story continues, and slowly the fabric of these lives reveals itself in more depth. Already we have wandered through gardens, sat with families, listened to the quiet rhythms of elders who laugh, rest, and walk into years that seem astonishing to those outside their world. Yet the truth of their longevity grows even clearer when we look not only at what they do, but how they perceive life, how they experience time itself. To live long is not only to eat well, move often, and connect deeply, but also to dwell in a state of mind that softens the edges of existence, allowing years to glide rather than press, allowing burdens to rest lightly rather than weigh heavily. Imagine for a moment the way time feels in these regions. In Okinawa, the hours pass slowly, tied to the rise and fall of the sun rather than the ticking of a digital clock. Morning is not a hurried rush to reach appointments but a gentle greeting of dawn, stretching, moving, preparing tea, tending small gardens. The people here carry with them rituals of mindfulness so subtle that they may not recognize them as extraordinary. Yet in each small action lies awareness. They practice what is called ikigai, a reason for being, a central meaning that breathes through every moment. This sense acts like a compass, aligning even ordinary tasks with significance. To cook a meal, to walk to the market, to repair a fence, each task is not a fragment of wasted time but a thread in the garment of purpose. When time itself becomes meaningful, the mind stops rushing, and stress dissolves into the rhythm of presence. In Sardinia, the mountains rise like guardians, protecting villages shaped by centuries of tradition. Here, people have always understood that life cannot be outrun, it must be walked with. Shepherds trace ancient trails without complaint, their feet meeting earth they know by memory, the hills echoing with bells of goats and sheep. The simple act of walking outdoors, repeated across decades, harmonizes body and world. Their sense of time is as steady as their steps. Age does not approach as an enemy, but as a companion who walks slowly alongside them, marking milestones without fear. When a man celebrates his 95th birthday, the family marvels, but the man himself smiles softly because he feels no sudden arrival at old age. He has been slowly walking into it day by day, step by step, never resisting, only accepting. In such acceptance lies serenity, and in serenity lies strength. On the Nicoya Peninsula, where the sun falls in rich colors over forests and sea, people rise early to meet the day. They eat breakfasts of tortillas, beans, and coffee, and these simple meals lead into mornings filled with tasks. Small farms require tending. Tools are carried. Fields are checked. And yet work is not approached with frantic labor but with cadence, with rhythm. The work shapes their bodies without breaking them, for every gesture is repeated steadily rather than forced in excess. When they pause to rest, it is not with guilt but with acceptance that rest is natural, needful, vital. Their sense of time is bound to the earth, to the cycle of planting and harvest, to seasons that give fruit and then demand renewal. To live by nature is to live long, because the human body is itself nature, following the same rhythms when allowed to breathe freely. In Ikaria, where life unfolds slowly upon an island kissed by waves, even the passing of days feels almost irrelevant. People do not wear watches to count their hours. They do not demand punctuality from each other as though time were a prison. Instead, mornings drift into afternoons, afternoons drift toward evenings, and life simply flows. They wake when the body is ready, eat when the body asks, and rest in the heat of the day without apology. Their festivals stretch deep into the night, sometimes until dawn, filled with music, wine, dancing, and laughter, because joy is not to be contained within narrow restrictions. In the act of loosening their grip on time, they loosen also its grip on them. Longevity appears as a byproduct of this freedom. And then in Loma Linda, among the Seventh-day Adventists, time carries sacred rhythm. The week is lived with care, and the Sabbath, from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, is honored as a day of rest. In a society where work often never ends, where tasks spill recklessly into every hour, this act of pausing for one full day becomes revolutionary. It provides the mind renewal and the body relief. People eat together, pray together, walk outdoors, and set aside the anxieties of achievement. Stress recedes. Relationships strengthen. Even biology responds, lowering blood pressure, calming the nervous system, giving the immune system space to protect rather than fight endlessly. Each week, a day of peace is added, and across years, those days accumulate, lengthening not only lifespan but life's depth. As we look deeper across each region, the patterns of longevity align with not just actions but mindsets. To eat modestly, to move consistently, to connect closely, and to feel purposeful are choices. But to embrace time itself with acceptance is a perspective. It shapes every breath, every thought, and every heartbeat. Those who spend their lives fearing age quickly, for stress corrodes the body from within. Those who welcome age as part of the natural arc of being carry lightness, and within lightness, the body repairs itself. Cells thrive, hearts beat steady, inflammation calms, and healing responds more effortlessly. The science aligns with the spirit, the way one perceives life shapes the way one lives it. Now imagine sitting in the shadow of an elder who has reached 100 years. They speak slowly, their voice softened by age yet still strong enough to carry. They do not rush their words, they pause, they smile, they reflect. Perhaps they gesture at their garden, at the fields, at the ocean. Perhaps they point at photographs of children now grown, grandchildren living nearby, great-grandchildren playing outside. Their life is spread wide between past and present, and they bask in both. For them, memory is not regret. It is continuity. The years do not disappear, they gather like pearls on a necklace, each one unique, and yet strung together into a whole. To listen to them is not to collect facts but to feel time itself slowing, stretching, reminding you that longevity is as much about how you see your life as how long you walk upon the earth. Community continues to weave itself into every example. In Okinawa, elders are cared for not by institutions but by relatives, neighbors, and friends. Loneliness is unwelcome here because the circle never closes, it keeps expanding. In Sardinia, respect for elders is unquestionable, their voice is equal with the young, for elders are seen as guardians of wisdom, not burdens of age. In Nicoya, neighbors drop by unannounced, not to intrude but to belong. In Ikaria, if anyone is sick, the village comes together, bringing meals and care. In Loma Linda, organized faith communities ensure support never ends. The science of longevity may highlight proteins and antioxidants, but the science of the soul highlights one fact above all: people live longer when they are not alone. There is also something meaningful in their understanding of death. These elders are not haunted by fear, not paralyzed by the thought of endings. To them, passing is part of the path, not a disruption of it. The centenarians of blue zones regard death as an eventual companion, to be greeted with the same calm acceptance with which they have greeted every day. This perspective removes the corrosive fear that often shortens lives elsewhere. To fear constantly is to exhaust the body with stress. To accept is to allow the body peace. Peace heals. Peace sustains. And so, even their endings feel gentle. They pass surrounded by family, by song, by prayer, often still within their homes rather than in sterile solitude. Their peace continues into their final moments, and this peace accompanies the living, teaching them that life must be lived, not clung to, in order to endure. Scientists who observe all of this often put it into terms of biology and lifestyle. They speak of telomere shortening or lengthening, of inflammation reduced by diet, of mitochondria working more efficiently in bodies not overfed, not overstressed. They measure how beans provide fiber and protein without excess fat, how nuts deliver healthy oils, how greens deliver antioxidants, how wine in small portions relaxes the heart without damaging it. They note how movement repairs joints, improves blood flow, lowers sugar levels. They study how naps and rest reduce cortisol, how friendships release oxytocin that heals the body. Every fact matches every story. Formulas align with lived experiences. Yet the elders themselves do not describe mitochondria or hormones. They describe friendship, sharing, laughing, working gently, being needed. Their vocabulary of life is simple, and yet it captures more truth than any medical text. Their joy is another secret, quiet but unmistakable. It is not joy from wealth, from accumulation, from consumption. It is joy in presence. To hear a bird sing at dawn, to hold a grandchild's hand, to sit with neighbors drinking tea, to taste the sweetness of fruit fresh from the land, these are joys that shine quietly. They do not flare like fireworks but glow like lanterns, steady, dependable, enduring. This kind of joy nurtures life like constant nourishment. Those who know how to find joy in simple things do not carry the endless thirst that drains so many hearts elsewhere. Desire limited brings contentment. Contentment strengthens the body. And health follows naturally. Step again into Ikaria at night. Imagine a festival beginning after sunset. Food is laid upon long tables. Music begins. Feet move slowly, older and younger dancing side by side. The laughter flows, and wine is poured into small cups, never in excess, always with care. Hours pass. Midnight comes. 2 in the morning arrives. Still the dancing continues. The 90-year-old man still sways with the rhythm, his steps slower but steady. The 85-year-old woman still joins the circle, her smile wide, her eyes bright. They do not measure their health in medical terms but in the presence of joy. This joy gathers the community and adds days to every life. It keeps heart strong. It keeps mind sharp. It gives body and spirit the desire to endure. Across the ocean in Sardinia, another scene unfolds. An old shepherd rises at dawn, leading goats along steep hillsides. His body bends as he climbs, but his steps push forward, unwavering. He knows each stone, each curve of the trail. Centuries of his ancestors have walked the same paths. His endurance is not miraculous but habitual. At home, his family waits, children preparing bread, grandchildren eager to greet him. They will eat together, laugh together, share the work, share the day. It is not only his body rising each morning but his purpose. Purpose pulls him up the hill. Purpose lifts him each day. That purpose, simple yet unwavering, makes his 95 years feel strong still. To lose purpose would shorten his walk. To keep it extends it. This is one more truth taught by quiet lives. Purpose is medicine, as powerful as food, as powerful as exercise, as powerful as rest. Beneath all this, the theme continues like a heartbeat. Life does not need to be grand to be long. It needs to be consistent, mindful, connected, and content. In the modern world that rushes, competes, and consumes, lessons from the blue zones whisper differently. Slow down. Share more. Eat simply. Move naturally. Rest fully. Believe deeply. These are not extraordinary demands. They are ancient truths, within reach for all. Yet it is only in these quiet regions that humanity has remembered to keep practicing them faithfully enough for their bodies to respond with a century of life. As this story continues around you, let it settle upon your mind like a blanket, offering comfort. Feel the rhythm of walking through those cobblestone streets, of sitting beneath grapevines, of hearing waves against rocks, of watching candles flicker in small homes. Imagine the elders, their faces lined with years but radiant with wisdom, looking upon you as if to say, "This too can be yours." The secrets are open, they are not hidden. They live in the way one breathes, one eats, one connects, one rests. They are simple, yet in their simplicity, they are profound. So let yourself drift deeper into their world. Let your breathing match theirs, slow and steady. Let your heart feel lighter, freed from unnecessary tension. Let your spirit feel connected, as if welcomed into their circle. And as the hours pass, remember this truth: to live long is to live simply, to live closely with others, to live with peace. In such living, 100 years becomes not an impossibility, but a gentle unfolding of time, like a river moving forward, day by day, never rushing, never faltering, flowing endlessly into the horizon. The flow of the story deepens further, like a river broadening as it moves toward the sea. We have walked through gardens and mountains, crossed into quiet kitchens and fields where centenarians still rise with the dawn, always steady, always purposeful. And yet, the more we follow them, the more we realize that the secret of their lives is not a single miracle waiting to be uncovered, but a whole orchestra of details performing together over decades. Nothing appears extraordinary in isolation, but the harmony of these small things creates an entire way of being that silently extends their days. It is as if time itself breathes differently in these places, expanding gently, letting lives stretch long and unbroken, like threads woven across a century. Even now, imagine the slow pace of a village morning where the light of the sun touches rooftops and stone walls, softening every shadow. The sound of footsteps on narrow paths signals life waking up again, not hurried, but purposeful. An elder, her back bent slightly from years of labor, carries a basket of vegetables she harvested from her garden. Her pace is unhurried, she pauses often, not from weakness, but from habit, learning long ago to savor each act rather than rush through it. In her world, time does not dictate, it joins. She steps into her kitchen, prepares breakfast of rice and miso, or beans and tortillas, or bread dipped in olive oil, depending on which blue zone we imagine ourselves in. Each small meal is an affirmation of tradition repeated faithfully, carrying both health and identity with every bite. These ordinary moments grow extraordinary when seen over the span of years, for consistency turns humble actions into pillars of strength. Across the ocean on another hillside, a man of more than 90 years guides his flock. His walking stick taps against earth that has carried his family for generations. Each step echoes not with exhaustion but with presence. His breath is slow, controlled, his gaze steady. Though frail compared to his youth, his endurance is remarkable, built from a lifetime of motion that expected no reward, no records, no metrics. His body simply absorbed the rhythm of daily paths, and now in his old age, those habits hold him upright. He returns each evening to laughter and shared meals, surrounded by family that stretches not in individuals but in roots, like vines climbing across the walls and roofs of his home. The strength he feels inside is not only his own. It is shared, multiplied, extended across relations that anchor him in meaning. And it is within this anchoring that his years continue unbroken. The world outside these enclaves often marvels at the statistics. How could so many people live beyond 100 in these scattered, distant lands? And yet, those who live this way do not compute their longevity in numbers. They do not count their days. They do not project their years ahead of them like lines to be measured. They live within their days so fully, so contentedly, that life simply expands without effort. Perhaps this is the greatest secret they carry, that to focus strenuously on living longer often makes one live less fully, but to live fully without obsession is what makes life stretch long. There is paradox in this truth, but it becomes clear when seen through the eyes of the elders who smile without calculation, who rise without complaint, who rest without guilt. Evenings in these zones are painted with rituals of calm. In Okinawa, neighbors gather in shaded courtyards in small moe, lifelong circles of trust and laughter. They drink tea, share morsels of food, and tell stories, each word weaving bonds tighter, each shared silence reaffirming comfort. The elders speak with ease, pausing to let conversation breathe. Unlike the hurried exchanges of modern life, these talks stretch unhurried into hours, until lanterns glow and stars appear. The warmth of companionship lingers as deeply in their bodies as the warmth of tea. Scientists may speak of reduced cortisol and healthy neurochemistry, but what one feels in these moments is far simpler: human beings, supported and enveloped by one another, protected by community against the harshness of solitude. On the Greek island of Ikaria, the night carries music across the hills. Violins and lyres sing into the darkness, feet move in familiar dances, and laughter rises with the smoke of shared meals. Children dart between legs, elders clap hands above their heads, and across generations, the rhythm binds them together. The 90-year-olds do not sit apart, they are within the very circle, part of the weaving of bodies and voices. They dance slowly, but with joy that penetrates deeper than speed. For them, life is not behind them even when they see the century mark approaching, it is around them, in every embrace and every repeated song. And when morning arrives, their bodies are tired not from loneliness, but from abundance, from hours of joy that remind them what it means to belong. Nicoya, too, offers nights of connection. In homes lit by soft yellow lamps, elders share coffee brewed dark and strong. The evenings rarely end in isolation. It is common for older neighbors to walk to each other's homes, to greet children on the way, to sit and talk under verandas until late light fades away. Here, the idea of remaining alone is almost foreign. Even the very old feel drawn into community, needed and wanted until their final days. Imagine what this does for the heart, the reassurance that your place in the tribe never disappears, that your presence always matters. This reassurance alone is medicine, shaping the nervous system, steadying the heartbeat, calming the fear that erodes so many in hurried societies. When belonging is unbroken, the soul does not tremble, and the body follows with calm resilience. The simplicity of their diets appears again as endless affirmation. In Sardinia, bread baked each morning releases aromas that fill homes with comfort. Olive oil, pressed nearby, poured gently, rich and golden, glistens on vegetables or grains. Cheese, crafted from the milk of goats who graze freely outside the village, adds protein and flavor. Wine pours into small glasses, not in excess, but in moderation, more for conversation than intoxication. When scientists measure their intake, they see balance. When families gather around such meals, they feel celebration. The science and the spirit meet at the same table, agreeing silently that food is more than fuel, it is tradition, medicine, joy, and connection. Likewise, in Okinawa, purple sweet potatoes, tofu, and green vegetables form the backbone of meals, lifting nutrition to extraordinary effect while leaving the body light. In Nicoya, beans, rice, corn, tropical fruits, these fill the body without draining it. And always, the story is the same: freshness, moderation, tradition, consistency. Nothing is wasted, nothing is indulgent. In this way, even their diets reflect the harmony of their worlds. A hidden strength also lies in the way they manage hardship. No region is free from suffering. All lives carry loss, illness, difficulties, uncertainty. But the people in these blue zones do not allow hardship to sever their bond with joy. They carry faith of many kinds, sometimes in religion, sometimes in philosophy, sometimes in purpose alone. This faith, whatever form, becomes a shield against despair. They pray, they meditate, they remember rituals passed down from their ancestors. These moments of reflection lower the storms inside, allowing grief to breathe out instead of being imprisoned. Stress does not accumulate endlessly, it is released again and again through prayer, song, walk, silence, ritual. And so their biology avoids the damage of constant strain, choosing instead cycles of stress and release, like waves crashing and then retreating to the sea. Healing follows naturally, because the spirit has been given permission to mend. What then is the lesson for us, listening far away, lying in quiet as the story streams through the night? It is that the miracle of longevity does not require genius, money, or secret potions. It requires ordinary things done with care, repeated without fail, embraced with joy. It requires belonging, simplicity, reverence for rest, deep ties, moderation in food and drink, purpose burning softly throughout life. These are not hidden treasures inaccessible to us, but paths always before us, though often ignored in the rush of modernity. To learn from them is not to copy a diet or a ritual perfectly, but to embrace balance consciously. Each choice we make, whether to walk or sit, to cook simply or consume heavily, to join others or to isolate, to rush or to linger, points subtly toward health or away from it. And when the right choices are made consistently, even without perfection, lives lengthen not in despair but in quiet abundance. Imagine, now, closing your eyes and walking within those distant places once more. You hear the waves on Ikaria. You smell the olives of Sardinia. You hear the goat's bells in mountain air. You feel the warmth of the sun on Nicoya's soil. You taste the miso and sweet potato of Okinawa. You sense the prayerful silence of Loma Linda's Sabbath. Each image wraps around you like a thread, weaving a tapestry of simple truths that cradle you softly. You do not need to live there to feel what they feel. The essence can enter your breath, your meals, your rest, your sense of connection today, tonight, now. That essence carries healing, and that healing carries longevity. The story lingers open-ended, much like their lives. It does not reach a climax or resolve in finale, but flows steadily, calmly, endlessly, like the act of breathing itself. And just as their lives stretch gently across time, so too does this narrative stretch without urgency, allowing you to drift gently with it, carried into quiet, into slowness, into the embrace of rest. As the voices of their lessons whisper through your mind, allow yourself to settle, to sink, to let go of speed and cling to nothing. This is the same release they practice daily, the same acceptance that makes their lives so extraordinarily long. In this release, everything tender begins, healing, peace, and sleep. The story continues, stretching unhurried across the horizon of thought, moving like the gentle tide of night. Already we have seen how the secrets of the blue zones rise not in dramatic bursts but in quiet patterns repeated faithfully, humbly, through the long course of life. Yet as we walk further into this world, it becomes even clearer that longevity is not a formula hidden in shadows but a song sung softly by every action, every connection, every breath. It is not a secret at all, it is a rhythm waiting to be remembered. And so we keep walking, slowly, allowing our minds to settle deeper and deeper into this cadence where science and soul, food and faith, body and spirit merge into harmony. Picture again the Okinawan sunrise, arriving gently, casting light like silk across the sea. In the villages, life stirs almost imperceptibly at first, the creak of a door opening, the faint scrape of sandals against stone, the laughter of children running with bare feet into the morning air. The elderly emerge from their homes not as relics but as pillars of the present, carrying baskets, walking to gardens, meeting with neighbors already gathering for tea. The old join the young, no wall separates them. They are simply different notes within the same melody. Here, the idea of retirement holds little meaning, for purpose flows across all years like a river. Work changes its form as muscles grow slower, yet contribution continues. The grandmother preparing food, the grandfather teaching wisdom in stories, the neighbor offering help, all of them remain integral, all of them remain included. And so their lives lengthen, naturally, without effort, because belonging has no expiry. From this island, let your vision drift over the Mediterranean until Sardinia rises in memory. The mountains rise sharply to meet the sky, and small stone homes cluster within valleys that have witnessed centuries of endurance. In these villages, men in their 90s and even 100s still climb hills, guided by staffs weathered by time, their steps deliberate, their lungs filled by clean air that whips through grasses and vines. They pause, they breathe, they look out across a land both harsh and generous. Within their gaze is a kind of stillness that comes only from living long enough to realize that life is not about control but about coexistence. Their diets, humble and constant, offer the same truth: grains, vegetables, olive oil, cheese from goats grazing near cliffs, wine never in excess but always in connection. Each bite reminds them of the earth that gives, and the body thanks them with resilience that keeps beating strong long into years many would have expected to falter. In Nicoya, the story repeats with new colors. Here, heat rises with the sun, and the day begins with breakfasts that nourish both body and tradition: beans simmered, tortillas flattened by hands that have known the practice since childhood, coffee brewed dark and rich enough to fill the air with fragrance before a sip is even taken. The elders of Nicoya wake not in isolation but with families nearby, children greeting them, grandchildren eager for their affection. They rise not because they must but because each day offers something new, even if made of the old. They carry machetes, tend small fields, check fences, sweep their yards, not as burdens, but as familiar rituals that give shape to existence. By evening, conversations echo through wide verandas. Elders speak slowly, stories flow, laughter encourages, and silence comforts. The constant interplay between effort and ease, activity and connection forms the backbone of their strength. Their bodies move naturally, their diets remain steady, their souls stay included, their lives extend like warm evenings fading softly into night. Turn now to Ikaria, where days drift almost dreamlike. Time is measured not by clocks but by cycles of light, of sound, of rest. People wake late, eat late, and gather late beneath the stars for music and conviviality. The rhythm of Ikaria is unlike anywhere else. Afternoons can dissolve into naps, cooling both body and heart. Evenings bloom into festivals where old and young hold hands and dance in long circles. Wine is poured from clay pitchers, laughter lifts into air heavy with the scent of herbs and sea. Elders of 80, 90, or 100 move among the crowds without separation. They are not treated as fragile but as participants, essential and joyful. They do not watch life, they continue to live it. Their secret does not lie in some hidden herb or potion but in the act of simply never stepping away from the circle of community. As they stay within it, they stay strong. And their endurance, their health, their longevity repeat the same story heard in every blue zone: the body thrives when the spirit feels included. Far away in North America, the story finds another home among the Seventh-day Adventists of Loma Linda. Here, faith gives structure, discipline, clarity. The weekly Sabbath creates rhythm, a full day given to rest, reflection, and devotion. Work does not intrude, obligations soften. Families gather, meals are shared, walks are taken, prayers are lifted. Time slows enough for life to mend. Their diets, primarily plant-based, align not only with faith but with modern science. Nuts, grains, legumes, fruits each carries a nutrient that nourishes body quietly, giving strength without excess. Unlike cultures that celebrate stimulation, here moderation reigns. And within moderation lies protection. Long lives bloom not through denial but through respect toward the body as temple, respect for the mind as vessel of spirit, respect for each other as companions in journey. The Adventists stand as reminder that belief itself, when lived with sincerity, sustains health as much as any physical habit. For the soul, when calm, commands peace within the body. At the heart of all of these cultures lies a deeper perspective about what it means to age. For them, age is not a decline but a continuation. Each wrinkle is seen not as mark of fading but as signature of experience, proof that the body and spirit survived and endured. Each slow step does not invite pity but respect. Longevity appears not by holding desperately to youth but by welcoming the wholeness of every stage. This acceptance creates peace, and peace, in turn, restores. Stress cannot make a home where acceptance reigns. Fear cannot carve deeply into a heart that greets age like an old friend. And as science tells us, stress is the great enemy of longevity, poisoning blood, straining heart, crushing immune system. Remove it, or soften it, and the body renews itself more easily. So when we ask why centenarians from these zones live so long, perhaps the simplest answer is that they never lived in war against the fact of living itself. They accepted. And in that acceptance, their bodies found freedom. Consider again how they rest. Sleep is not a battle for them but a natural rhythm. In Ikaria, naps protect the heart. In Nicoya, evenings slow with conversation so the body softens into slumber. In Sardinia, quiet nights surround small homes with silence deep enough to hold peace. In Okinawa, elders go to bed early but often rise with purpose already shaped. In Loma Linda, evenings can end in prayer, offering closure that prepares both mind and body to renew. Rest appears in countless forms, but always it is honored. Rest is not avoided, not feared, not disrespected. And so the body answers with health, memory preserved, energy steady, spirit unbroken. All these details stitched together into one repeating truth: longevity is not an accident but a design written not by engineers or scientists, but by culture, environment, and spirit intertwined. When a body is fed simply, when a mind feels secure, when a spirit holds purpose, when stress flows out instead of festering within, illness recedes, and vitality continues. Modern science confirms this over and over, but the people themselves do not speak in those terms. They speak of friendship, laughter, faith, fields, meals, songs. Simple words. But within their simplicity are the foundations of lives that reach past 100. Even death itself looks softer within their eyes. Not a failure, not a loss alone, but an arrival at the next step of the path they have always walked. To pass after 90 or 100 years, surrounded by children and grandchildren, leaving behind stories, wisdom, bonds, that is not tragedy. That is fulfillment. That is wholeness. It is what every human spirit longs for deep within, to live fully, to matter, to remain part of something enduring until the very end. Their lives remind us that the measure of a long life is not simply years counted, but meaning lived. And when meaning fills years, years multiply. So as you listen deeper, let yourself feel the weight of these truths not as demands but as gifts. Feel them rest within you slowly, like seeds planted. Simplicity is possible. Connection is available. Purpose can be chosen. Rest can be embraced. Food can be made fresh. Movement can emerge naturally. Faith, however understood, can calm. These are not distant ideals but accessible practices. And as their lives show, they do not need to be performed with perfection, only with constancy. Through such constancy, health and longevity appear quietly, unforced, as natural as morning rising. The elders of the Blue Zone show us that 100 years of life is not an exceptional reward reserved for luck. It is a rhythm available to anyone willing to embrace balance, belonging, moderation, and meaning. Their truth is simple but profound: to live long is to live gently, to live kindly, to live with patience. And so the story flows onward, calming, unhurried, like your very breath, guiding you deeper into the night, into rest, into peace, as if you too are part of their circle, sitting beneath the stars, sharing quiet laughter, and knowing that life, when lived this way, can unfold endlessly like a soft, unbroken dream. The story drifts onward like a steady current, unbroken, carrying you deeper into the calm, into the stillness that rests beneath every detail of these lives. What has come before showed us how food, movement, purpose, and connection grow into the foundations of longevity. Yet as we look closer, as night continues its gentle unfolding, another layer reveals itself: the harmony between inner life and outer world, between the private heart and the public circle, between the mind that dreams and the body that carries it through each year. It is in this harmony that the deepest secrets of long life quietly wait. Imagine once more the dawn on Okinawa's shores, the horizon trembling with colors of pink and gold. Elders step outside their homes, their breath slow, their movements deliberate, their spirits tranquil. They do not wake into days burdened by endless rush, by alarms and strict schedules. They wake into a rhythm older than themselves, a rhythm taught by earth and sea. They practice ikigai without needing to call it so, a sense of purpose that flows not in grand gestures but in small acts. To tend a garden, to share tea with a neighbor, to guide a grandchild, to feel one's hands useful and one's voice heard, this is enough to anchor the soul. And when the soul feels anchored, life has stability, and health becomes possible even into the 100th year. Their secret is not that they chase meaning, but that they live within it daily, as naturally as breathing. In Sardinia, the pattern is different, yet it sings of the same truth. Mountains guard the valleys where men walk their herds, women knead dough, children run along stone paths. Elders remain within those rhythms like seasoned instruments in an ancient orchestra. Their bodies grow slower with time, but they remain attuned to the same music of land and labor. They feel their lives pulling forward not with pressure but with belonging. Even in advanced age, they feel themselves necessary not only for their survival but for their families, for their villages. The loss of this necessity weakens many elsewhere, but here it strengthens. They rise in the morning not to face emptiness, but to fulfill continuity. To tell stories of ancestors, to guide hands in ancient craft, to bless meals, these actions carry invisible weight, and in that weight lies endurance. Across the ocean comes Nicoya, stirred by dawn's humid breath. Forests hum, roosters call, sunlight spills across fields. Elders wake early, their bodies moving toward tasks that have been repeated across lifetimes. They chop wood, tend plants, sweep verandas, mend fences. Work is not endured reluctantly, it is embraced as a steady note in life's rhythm. Their diet sustains them with what the land offers: beans, corn, fruit, coffee, and their families surround them like protective walls. To be old here is not to be abandoned. It is to be cradled by generations that revere your presence. And as elders offer blessings, advice, and care, their lives tether to the lives around them. They do not stand alone in the winds of time but are woven into a network of laughter and love. And within the weave, they endure, strong and whole. Meanwhile, Ikaria seems to float apart from time entirely. On this Greek island, weeks blur into celebrations of long evenings filled with music and afternoons given over to rest. Elders nap, freeing their hearts from relentless pressure, giving their blood and breath moments to recover each day. They eat herbs and greens steeped in teas, laced with antioxidants unknowingly preserving cells from damage. They dance across nights, forgetting the hour, focusing only on joy. And perhaps it is this forgetting, this release of strict measurement, that carries them past 100 with ease. When time itself loosens its grip, the years follow differently. They stretch longer and softer. They turn, like waves on a shore, not counted, only experienced. In this forgetting lies their gift. In Loma Linda, structure protects as much as freedom protects in Ikaria. Here, faith sets boundaries around days and weeks, carving holy rest into every cycle. The Sabbath returns like a heartbeat, pausing labor, restoring bodies, anchoring communities. Without this rhythm, life would spill endlessly forward, exhausting the mind. With it, life regathers itself, remembering balance. Meals of plants, legumes, nuts repeat across the decades like hymns sung to health. Activity comes in simple forms: walks, gardening, service to others. And above all, a clear sense of belonging to a faith that frames every choice, provides unity. The Adventists rise with confidence, knowing why their bodies must be cared for, why their spirits must be honored. Even in modern America, within this tiny community, longevity blossoms, demonstrating that culture, even amid chaos, can carve paths toward peace that stretch into extraordinary years. All these regions offer one collective lesson: the life that endures is the life that never cuts itself away from the patterns of nature and community. Their health does not come from laboratories or pills, but from following currents, much older currents of light and darkness, work and rest, feast and fast, solitude and togetherness, laughter and silence. Their secret is not in some hidden element but in alignment. And perhaps it is this word, alignment, that captures most clearly what is happening. Genes align with environment, diet aligns with need, body aligns with rhythm, spirit aligns with purpose. When alignment takes hold, balance follows. And balance is what lets life continue unbroken, even past a century. Consider again their perception of aging. Modern culture often separates old age from life, calling it decline, treating it as illness. But they treat old age as simply another texture added to existence. Wrinkles are seen as maps, lines drawn by experience, symbols of endurance. Slow steps are respected, voices softer with time are honored, not silenced. They never exile their elderly, they embrace them. And because their elders remain included, they remain alive in spirit. Death does not come early to those still engaged. Death waits until the circle itself recognizes readiness, until the elder has lived not merely long but fully. Unlike elsewhere, where solitude withers the late years, here inclusion fertilizes them. And where inclusion grows, longevity springs forth without effort. Slowly, as you imagine these lives, let the rhythm of their world drift into your body. Breathe with the steadiness of their mornings. Rest with the softness of their afternoons. Feel the joy of their evenings carried into your heart. The science, yes, speaks in measures: blood pressure lowered, cholesterol balanced, cortisol reduced. But the spirit speaks more tenderly: laughter heals, belonging sustains, love protects, purpose guides, rest restores. These whispers enter you now, carried by stories, reminding you that you, too, can hold such rhythms within yourself. Look closer still, and another element appears. Each of these cultures carries rituals that repeat across decades. These rituals are not obsessions but gentle habits: prayers, meals, songs, naps, work. In their repetition lies security. The brain finds comfort knowing what comes next. Uncertainty, which breeds anxiety and stress, weakens. Certainty, given by rituals, calms. For an Adventist, every week carries Sabbath, every meal follows principles, every day is framed by prayer. For an Okinawan, every season knows planting, harvest, festivals, friendship circles. For Sardinians and Icarians, each year echoes with music, with dances, with meals made the same way for centuries. Ritual is reassurance. Reassurance is relaxation. Relaxation is longevity. The elders carry their lives like well-known songs: nothing is frantic, nothing is alien, all is familiar, and familiarity breeds peace. And perhaps peace itself is the greatest medicine of all. Stress is the storm that corrodes. Peace is the climate that heals. The centenarians of the blue zones teach this not by theory but by living proof. Their bodies show less inflammation, less disease, less breakdown. Their minds show less dementia, less despair. Their lives glow because peace has been nurtured daily, for years, for decades, until it becomes their very nature. To live a century is one thing. To live it joyfully, clearly, without pain of loneliness, is another. Yet they achieve both, not through struggle but through gentleness toward themselves, toward each other, toward time itself. As we follow them deeper into their world, we can imagine walking side by side with them on quiet roads. 100-year-old man takes your arm, steadying himself but also steadying you. He speaks not of longevity but of family, of meals, of soil, of sky. A 95-year-old woman prepares food for you at her table, insisting you eat more, laughing with warmth that erases years between you. You realize she does not see herself as fragile. She sees herself as whole. Their strength comes not from pretending age does not exist, but from treating it as natural, inevitable, dignified. In that dignity lies freedom. In that freedom lies health. Now let yourself dissolve further into their rhythm. Feel yourself in their gardens, touching soil, smelling herbs. Hear goats call from Sardinian hills. Listen to waves lap at Icarian shores. Taste coffee steaming at dawn in Nicoya. See the candles flickering in evening Adventist homes. In each image, you join them. In each breath, you align with them. Their secret becomes your lullaby tonight. Their wisdom becomes your peace. You carry them with you now into your own rest, into your own night, where their centuries fold softly into your dreams, and their lessons hum gently like an ancient song. And so the story keeps flowing, without end, like the slow rhythm of a river across the centuries, inviting you deeper, quieter, into the calm where longevity begins not in numbers, not in fear, not in striving, but in gentleness, in simplicity, in harmony. The current of the story keeps carrying us, gently, as though night itself were a river and we drift upon it without effort. What we have seen in these lands where people live beyond 100 has been their rituals of food, their patterns of movement, their webs of connection, their acceptance of time, their reverence for balance. And yet, beneath all of these lies something even deeper, something almost invisible yet always present, the way their lives flow in harmony with nature itself. It is as though they never forgot that long before clocks and machines, humanity measured time by the sun and moon, by harvests and tides, by the shifting seasons. And so tonight, as you listen and sink further into stillness, imagine with me how life lengthens not only by human effort but by aligning gently with the great cycles of the earth. In Okinawa, the gardens themselves offer lessons. Rows of green stretch beneath the sky, tender leaves shimmering with dew in the morning light. Elders bend to the earth, their hands weathered, their smiles serene. They do not curse the soil for being demanding, they respect it, they honor it, they shape their days by its rhythms. When the rain arrives, they pause. When the sun grows harsh, they rest. When the season calls for planting, their energy answers. When it calls for harvest, they gather joyfully what has ripened. Their bodies mirror these cycles: effort and pause, stretching and resting, growth and release. And in that reflection, they remain strong. Their health, their years, are not accidents but the natural consequence of living in step with the land. In Sardinia, life is tied to mountains. Hills rise against clouds, and families nestle into valleys like seeds protected by stone. Their walks up and down the steep terrain are not calculated exercises, but an inheritance, a rhythm repeated generation after generation. Sheep graze the cliffs, goats call across the slopes, shepherds follow as their fathers did before them. The land, though rugged, offers wine, olives, grains, cheese, herbs grown wild upon ridges. The air is sharp and clean, carrying strength into lungs that inhale steadily decade after decade. The landscape demands effort, but never excess. And so bodies respond, hardened but balanced, carrying men and women into their 90s and 100s without breaking. To live long here is to bend not against, but with, the shape of mountains. Cross the waters to Nicoya, and the rhythm changes again to the voices of the tropics. Forests sway with heavy green, the air thick with warmth and birdsong. Elders wake to roosters crowing, to sunlight already bright in the sky. Their mornings are filled with movement, checking land, sweeping paths, walking through fields. Their afternoons, heavy with sun, promise rest, conversation, lingering shade. Their evenings bloom with laughter, coffee rich and dark, stories flowing like rivers. They know that nature does not move by relentless drive but by cycle, day and night, wet and dry, growth and renewal. The Nicoyans absorb those cycles into their bones. And so, even as their hair whitens and their steps slow, they continue in steady rhythm. The centuries live inside their manner of walking, their manner of speaking, their confident rootedness in place. The ocean sings nearby, the earth provides fruit, and their bodies follow as naturally as waves follow moonlight. Ikaria drapes itself in a different song. Here the island rests on the Aegean Sea like a floating cradle, cradling lives that seem beyond time. Afternoon naps, evening feasts, herbal teas from hillsides, air thick with the scent of rosemary and sage. It is as though nature itself is woven into every gesture. The elderly nap not because they are weak, but because they understand the rhythm of sun and heat. They rise when cooler winds return. They live with nature's intervals, not fighting them with endless productivity. Nights often open into long festivals, music sailing like wind, bodies swaying in circles that seem eternal. Sleep eventually descends, restoring and renewing, but always in alignment with what the body asks, never in defiance. And so health, mood, vitality, memory, these remain intact when in other places they might have crumbled. To live on Ikaria is to sink into the flow of earth and sky, and life itself lengthens as gently as a horizon stretches into the sea. And then there is Loma Linda, where a different alignment governs days. Here, nature joins with faith. Families, communities, congregations honor times of rest not just as luxury but as commandment. To stop one day each week is not weakness, it is wisdom. During those pauses, people walk outdoors, feel fresh air, cook together, laugh, and pray. Their connection to the natural world is different but no less real. They plant gardens, hike trails, let the body feel sunlight without frenzy. And within their discipline lies protection. In a culture where many chase endlessly forward, they step back weakly into balance. That rhythm, as of a pendulum swinging slowly, quiets their hearts, strengthens their bonds, and sustains their bodies across years. They prove that the cycle of rest need not only come from earth, it can come from choice, from belief, from simple intention woven sacredly into life. As you hear these stories, you might notice that although each place is so different in geography, mountains, islands, coasts, forests, deserts, the same truth returns. Longevity comes when life is lived in partnership with cycles far larger than oneself. These elders did not resist those cycles, they joined them. They did not command the world to obey them, they obeyed the world's rhythm, and in that obedience found freedom. They surrendered to seasons, to nature, to time not as slaves, but as partners. And in surrender, bodies calmed, stress softened, purpose steadied. Science might translate this into reduced cortisol, improved vascular health, balanced circadian rhythm. But the lived experience is far gentler, less rushing, more belonging, deeper peace. Let your mind rest within this idea. The earth itself teaches how to live long. Day follows night, needing no reminder. Rain follows dryness, restoring balance. Trees lose leaves, then bloom again. Rivers carve stone not in force but in patience. To live as long as the people of the blue zones is to imitate this patience, to breathe slowly like rivers, to expand gently like seasons, to accept contrast as natural effort and rest, joy and sadness, youth and age. Nothing resists forever, everything harmonizes. And the people who live longest are those who remembered this oldest lesson. The science now agrees. Modern researchers study circadian rhythms, confirming that sleep synchronized with daylight heals. They study diet, finding benefits in seasonal eating, in plants grown nearby, in moderation rooted in tradition. They study stress, realizing how damaging disconnection is, how loneliness gnaws at immune systems, how relentless tension shortens telomeres, the threads of life itself. Their findings echo what these centuries-old cultures have already practiced: alignment, connection, balance, belonging, simplicity. The miracle is less miracle than memory, the human body remembering what it was always designed for. The centenarian simply never forgot. At night, their passing from wakefulness to sleep is itself a ritual of peace. In Sardinia, silence descends on mountain valleys, pierced only by small winds and distant bells. Elders close shutters, breathe the scent of clean earth, and fall into rest without lights glaring, without alarms waiting. In Okinawa, neighbors say goodnight softly, doors sliding shut on gardens murmuring with crickets. In Ikaria, maybe after a festival under stars, the last song fades and the last glass is emptied. Families walk home under moonlight, their footsteps slow, their bodies tired but spirits alive. They sleep as one with island, ocean, sky. In Nicoya, evenings close with the murmur of voices on verandas, the clinking of cups, then silence falling like a curtain across the forest. And in Loma Linda, prayers close the day, the peace of devotion slipping over minds like a second blanket. Each version is unique, yet all flow to the same destination: sleep that restores, day after day, year after year, decade after decade. The body, honored with this rhythm, simply lasts longer. As you let these images move through you, feel your own breathing slow. Imagine yourself under those same skies, on those same hills, by those same seas. Hear the music of their evenings, the laughter of families, the footsteps on stone. Taste the simplicity of their foods, fresh, humble, pure. See the faces of elders smiling, not because they resisted age, but because they welcomed life, all of it: the work, the joy, the rest, the loss, the love. Take their lesson for yourself this moment: let go of resistance. Rest into belonging. Align into rhythm. For it is not years that define us, but how gently we walk within them. Perhaps the truest secret of their longevity is love, not romantic love alone, but the steady, unfaltering love of community, of family, of faith, of land itself. That love cancels solitude, lifts burdens, sustains spirits. That love stretches time, because every day holds meaning when shared. Science points to hormones, endorphins, oxytocin. But beneath those terms is a simpler truth: the human heart beats longer when it beats among others. The elders keep their hearts close to people they love, and in that closeness, they live not only long lives, but beautiful ones. Now, as the story spreads wider and softer, feel how its pace slows. Each word opens like a leaf drifting through air, descending gently. Each image lingers, not rushing forward but inviting you to rest inside it. You are there among them, seated at their tables, walking their hills, dancing their festivals, praying their prayers, drinking their tea. Their longevity is in you already, as vision, as sound, as feeling. Nothing is missing. All is present. And presence is health, presence is peace, presence is the deepest longevity of all. The night carries us further into stillness. The story does not end because their wisdom does not end. It loops, cycles, like nature itself, like the breath itself, like the endless turning of stars above villages and coasts, mountains and islands. And as long as you hear their song, you are part of that cycle, carried gently by it, slowly, rhythmically, into your own long night of rest. The story does not stop, it continues like a tide that knows no beginning and no end. What we have seen so far has been the patterns of life, food born of gardens and fields, movement woven into landscapes, rest honored by custom, spirit nurtured by faith and belonging. Beneath these habits lies the heartbeat of something older still, the intimate link between the human spirit and the timeless rhythm of the world. In these places where people live past 100, the very environment seems to conspire with their lives, lifting them, holding them, carrying them along in quiet harmony. They allow themselves to be shaped by earth and wind and sea, and in that partnership longevity is born. Imagine again an Okinawan evening. The sun sets slowly, leaking soft amber light across the horizon, palms and gentle roofs glowing with warmth. A group of elders sits cross-legged together, their circle unbroken, their faces lit in friendship. Tea steam rises in delicate threads, curling into twilight. They laugh, their laughter less quick than the laughter of children but deeper, carrying echoes of decades spent together. Some are 90, some 100, yet their eyes glimmer brightly, their hands still reach unconsciously for one another, their words glide softly through the air. As night falls fully, they are not alone. They are never alone. And within companionship that endures, age itself seems to pause, letting them rest within a time that stretches longer than expected. Now shift gently to Sardinia, where stone houses sleep below star-filled skies. An elder leans at his door, watching the dark hills, his cane resting by his hand. His children and grandchildren move within the house, sounds of cooking, voices overlapping, a baby giggling. He stands silent for a moment, breathing mountain air, the past whispering through his lungs. When he steps back inside, his family greets him with smiles, guiding him to the table. Bread is torn, wine is poured, cheese cut and shared. He sits not as frail figure but as anchor, the root through which his family feeds its meaning. He smiles, and they smile in return. Love drifts invisibly, like smoke from the fireplace, filling the air with warmth that no storm could extinguish. He knows he is needed, and because he is needed, he endures. In Nicoya, the songs of insects rise through evening forests, cradling small villages in their humming embrace. An elder rocks on a chair outside his home, the wood creaking slowly with each motion. His grandchild leans against him, listening as he tells a story too old to be written in books, a story carried instead through memory, from voice to voice, from one generation into the next. The child listens in awe, and the old man's eyes shine bright under the stars. He remembers his childhood vividly, still the mornings of work, the fields he helped sow, the laughter of friends gone now but alive in memory. His stories keep them alive in this moment, alive within him and within the little one who listens. This exchange of memory is itself life preserved, life extended through generations, an invisible ribbon tying one century to another. It is not biology alone that stretches years, but this continuity of belonging, this presence that makes both the elder and the child feel eternal in each other's gaze. Far away on Ikaria, the island night is alive. Tiny lights flicker in windows, and from one of the houses comes music, soft at first, then fuller, spilling into the summer air. Elders and youth gather together, sharing tables lined with food simple but abundant. Herbs collected from hills brew into teas, poured into cups with fragrant steam. Dancers take hands and move as a circle, steps slow, movement steady as waves. The 90-year-old takes part, her voice joining in song, not as memory, but as living note. Laughter fills the room, not sharp, but rolling, fluid, constant. When the hour grows late, no one looks at clocks. Time has no say in this world. What matters is joy, what matters is togetherness. And that joy nourishes more than heart, it restores body, mind, and soul. The elders dance on because joy itself protects them from decay. The circle spins until fatigue beckons, and only then do they rest, falling into deep sleep while laughter echoes still in their dreams. In the quiet valleys of Loma Linda, another rhythm takes shape. Families set aside time not only for themselves but for their faith, their wider community. Elders hold hands with children in prayer circles, voices lifted not in demand but in surrender, in gratitude. Their long lives are shaped by this balance between devotion and simplicity. Plant-based meals nourish their bodies, but it is faith that shields their hearts from despair. To know deeply why you live, to fit yourself within a larger story of belief, this alignment itself fortifies. Their weeks breathe with rhythm, days of work, then Sabbath of rest, and year after year, decade after decade, this cycle builds not erosion, but resilience. They stand as living examples that trust, discipline, and devotion bind health as tightly as diet or exercise ever could. As you drift among these images, you begin to notice all the patterns overlap like threads weaving a single fabric. They all eat humbly. They all move naturally. They all rest deeply. They all belong fiercely. They all breathe with the season, welcome both sun and moon, honor time without clinging to it. Together, these truths form their song. And that song tells us longevity is not extraordinary but deeply human, waiting within all of us if we only remember how to tune our lives back to harmony with earth and each other. Let your attention soften now into this thought: the people who live long do not rush to extend life, they surrender into the flow of it. Instead of cutting themselves apart from cycles, they join. Instead of fearing age, they celebrate it. Instead of isolating, they connect. Imagine for a moment what your body would feel like if it moved through life with such gentleness, year after year, without relentless tension. Imagine decades unfolding not in struggle but in rhythm, meals nourishing instead of depleting, friendships filling emptiness instead of loneliness draining health. Already you can feel it, peace settling across shoulders, breath deepening, worry loosening. This is how they live, every day, without spectacle, without proclamation. And this is why their lives extend. Beneath all of it lies love. Love expressed not only in romance but in each small kindness, cooking for family, inviting neighbors, dancing with joy, remembering ancestors in stories, walking together, tending one another in sickness, holding one another in grief, celebrating one another in joy. Love, simple and constant like breath, anchors them. Science cannot fully measure the chemistry of love, but the body knows. The heart beats steadier. Blood flows smoother. Mind clears. Cells repair. Love itself becomes medicine. And so, the old continue to live not only because of beans and greens, naps and walks, but because love has kept them alive. The beauty of their lives is not only that they last long, but that they last with quality. Centenarians walk, talk, remember, laugh, work, belong. They are not locked away, forgotten, but present in life until its end. Their gift is not only to themselves, but to everyone around them, the gift of presence, the gift of continuity, the gift of showing that age can be full rather than empty. We often fear growing old as though it means losing everything. But in their worlds, growing old means adding layers of belonging, layers of wisdom, layers of love. And perhaps this is why they live so long, because life keeps giving them reasons never to let go too quickly. As the words flow deeper, let their world become your world tonight. Walk their hills in your mind. Drink their tea. Hear their songs. Feel how each breath steadies, slower, calmer, joining their rhythm. You are among them now, part of their circles, welcomed at their tables. Longevity is not distant, it is present in every gentle choice, every shared smile, every act of love. Presence itself becomes the answer, being present in meals, in rest, in work, in connection. To live long is to live present, not to cling to future or to past, but to rest within the moment, again and again, until decades bloom without effort. And so this narrative carries you further still, softer, calm as the tide. The voices of the elders whisper through the night, telling you not to rush, not to grasp, only to belong. Let these voices drift across your mind like wind in grass, like waves along coasts, like time itself moving steady, never hurried. In their song you find your own rest. In their rhythm you find your own sleep. Their wisdom folds around you like a blanket, and within it you let go, not resisting, not forcing. Longevity begins in this acceptance, and peace begins here too. The night holds you softly, as the elders are held by their families and communities, as mountains hold their villages, as oceans cradle their islands. You are part of it. You are safe within it. You can rest, as they always have, deeply, fully, endlessly, in the current of life that flows forward without pause. The story has carried us far, held in the rhythm of lives stretching quietly beyond the reach of ordinary years. We have walked through gardens in Okinawa, climbed the mountain paths of Sardinia, sat on warm verandas in Nicoya, danced the long nights of Ikaria, and bowed our heads in prayer in Loma Linda. Together, we have seen that longevity is no miracle hidden away, no secret locked in guarded vaults, but rather the patient unfolding of simple truths: to eat with moderation, to move with intention, to rest with reverence, to belong with love, to carry purpose like a flame that never burns too fast. We have crossed oceans between continents, but every place spoke the same language in the end, a language of harmony, balance, connection, and peace. The elders of these lands taught us by example, not by lecture. Their wrinkled hands, their slow but steady steps, their voices softened yet clear with meaning, all stand as proof of what life can be when lived without hurry, without excess, without abandonment. They never asked science to explain their years, but science followed, confirming the wisdom written into their traditions. Longer telomeres, lower inflammation, stronger hearts, calmer minds, words of laboratories echoing what gardens, mountains, and oceans already knew. Balance heals. Connection sustains. Simplicity endures. Now, as the night turns deeper, let us return in imagination to each world one final time, to carry their lessons with us. Close your eyes and step once more into Okinawa. The morning sun glows pink above the sea, lighting small gardens stitched lovingly into the earth. Elders crouch among rows of leafy vegetables, their fingers gentle and firm, pulling food as though pulling memory. They rise with smiles, not wearied but enlivened by the act. Their neighbors call to them, laughter drifting between fields. Together they drink tea, the steam carrying aromas of herbs. Their bodies unnourished with greens, beans, and sweet potatoes, their spirits unnourished by circles of belonging. Life stretches on here like waves rolling toward an endless horizon. Then, let the mountain winds of Sardinia return to you. The air is crisp and strong, flowing from granite cliffs that have watched humans endure for centuries. A shepherd nearly 100 years old stands tall on the hillside, his stick planted firmly into earth that knows him as a friend. He looks down upon valleys where children run, where women prepare feasts, where wine in glasses captures the color of sunset. His song joins theirs at twilight, voices low but sure. In every face around him, in every bite of bread, in every story told across flames, the meaning of his years is written clear. He has outlived generations not because he tried to, but because he never walked alone, never drifted from purpose, never lost respect for the land that sustained him. Next arrives Nicoya, verdant and warm, glowing in evening orange. Families gather as tropical birds vanish into trees and insects rise with song. Coffee steams richly across porches, beans bubbling in communal pots, tortillas flattened beneath practiced palms. A man of 95 rocks slowly, his grandchild curled beside him, clinging to every word of memory passed through lips that have spoken to 3 centuries of descendants. His heart beats not for himself alone but for all who surround him. His health endures because his belonging endures. His time remains rich because each morning he has reason to rise, each night reason to speak. In Nicoya, light is shared, and in the sharing, it grows, carrying him forward still. Ikaria follows, where stars scatter thick across midnight skies. A feast still echoes in the distance, laughter not yet quiet, the circle of dancers not yet broken. A woman in her late 90s swayed with others until feet tired, but joy glowed still, her laughter softer than once before but no less bright. Her night ends not with loneliness but with fullness. Tea of sage and rosemary brews in clay mugs, herbs plucked from familiar slopes. She will sleep deeply, cells healed in the rest that comes so naturally in a culture that honors balance between activity and release. And she will wake tomorrow, ready to walk, to work, to laugh, to live. Her life flows onward not in resistance but in joy, joy that has carried her beyond 90 years and edges gently toward 100. Finally, Loma Linda. Night draws its curtain, voices soften into prayer, quiet spreads across homes that have built faith into every action. Elders place hands upon one another, words of blessing filling the air. Food that sustained, walks that calmed, rest that renewed, belief that healed all converge here in peace. Their hearts are calm, their stress is lightened, their bodies carry far fewer wounds of modern chaos. And so even in one of the busiest nations of the world, they carve an oasis of longevity, proving it is possible anywhere, if one holds fast to purpose, to balance, to love. Across all these lands, across every island and valley, the message shines without strain. Life does not need to be complicated to be long. It needs constancy more than brilliance, gentleness more than strength, belonging more than solitude. It needs balance between work and rest, joy and grief, youth and age. It needs nourishment from earth and water, from love and laughter, from purpose and peace. It is here, in these daily ordinary moments, that centuries are built silently, patiently, without spectacle. Tonight, as you lie listening, let yourself be cradled by this truth. Feel your breath slow until it aligns with waves, with mountains, with seasons. Let your heart find calm in the image of elders laughing together, eating together, resting with peace. Let your mind forget the rush of time, remembering instead the cycles of nature that always return, that always renew. Allow your body to surrender, as theirs have for decades, into rhythm and simplicity. Longevity begins not with striving but with releasing, with surrendering into presence, with accepting life as it flows. The story has moved from gardens to mountains to oceans, but in essence, it has always been carrying you toward this place, toward rest, toward peace, toward stillness where sleep begins. At last, let it carry you no further. Let it simply hold you as you drift, like the elders who drifted into nights under stars, like waves folding into endless seas, like time itself turning gently without end. You are part of this river. You belong in it. You are safe in its current. You are welcome in its peace. And as this night closes with the story, I want to thank you. Thank you for listening, for allowing me to guide you through the hills and gardens, the villages and seas, the laughter of centenarians, the whispers of their secrets. Thank you for giving yourself this time to rest, to breathe, to be carried. I hope these words hold you softly, that they remind you life is not measured only by years, but by presence, by balance, by connection, by love. Good night, dear listener. May you sleep deeply. May you find peace in the rhythm of your own breath, strength in the balance of your own days, and love in the company of those around you. May you carry these lessons with you, gently, into each morning you rise. And until we meet again, may you find rest as profound and sweet as those who live in the blue zones, where time itself slows, where lives stretch effortlessly toward 100 years and beyond. Sleep well, and farewell for now.